I'm going to read Psalm 89. I've just opened Psalms. I've just opened the book of Psalms until I found one that said David. And this is God's covenant with David, which, since we're going to talk about how that covenant was kept today, this is appropriate, even if I didn't look for it in advance. And since it's 52 verses, I'm not going to read the whole thing.
Thank you.
I will sing of your steadfast love, O Lord, forever. With my mouth, I will proclaim your faithfulness to all generations. I declare that your steadfast love is established forever. Your faithfulness is as firm as the heavens. You said, I have made a covenant with my chosen one. I have sworn to my servant David, I will establish your descendants forever and build your thrones for all generations. Let the heavens praise your wonders, O Lord. Let your faithfulness in the assembly of the holy ones. For who in the skies can be compared to the Lord? Who among the heavenly beings is like the Lord? God feared in the council of the holy ones, great and awesome above all that are around him.
That might be taking up the time.
Yes, it is. And speaking of donuts, we were just talking about donuts out there.
Those are from
Island
County.
Oh, you know this.
Oh my goodness.
Good.
I didn't want to ask.
Oh, thank you.
Bakes them and sells them by the multi-billions.
Well,
That's a challenge.
wonderful. Thank you. Were you guys up there for,
We were up there this weekend. We're gonna be up there next weekend because we were leading a rally, a drive,
oh my,
the Yacht Club.
oh nice.
Okay. Who would like to read chapter 8? It's short.
I'll do that.
Okay.
Sometime afterward, David attacked the Philistines and subdued them. David took out of the land of the Philistines. He also defeated the Moabites and making them lie down on the ground, measured them off with a cord. He measured 2 lengths of cord for those who were to be put to death, and 1 length for those who were to be spared. And the Moabites became servants to David and brought tribute. David also struck down King Hadadezer, son of Rehob and Zobah, and he went to restore his monument at the river Euphrates. David took from him 1,700 horsemen and 20,000 foot soldiers. David hamstrung all the chariot horses, but left enough for 100 chariots. When the Armenians of Damascus came to help King Hadadezer of Zobah, David killed 22,000 men of the Armenians. This is hard to read. Then David put garrisons among the Armenians of Damascus, and the Armenians became servants to David and brought tribute. The Lord gave victory to David wherever he went. David took the gold shields that were carried by the servants of Hadadezer and brought them to Jerusalem. From Betha and from Bethral, towns of Hadadezer, King David took great amount of bronze. When Toy of Hamath heard that David had defeated the whole army of Hadadezer, Toy sent his son Joram to King David to meet him and to congratulate him because he had fought against Hadadezer and defeated him. Now Hadadezer had often been at war with Toy. Joram brought with him articles of silver, gold, and bronze. These also King David dedicated to the Lord, together with the silver and gold that he dedicated from all the nations he subdued, from Edom, Moab, Ammonites, the Philistines, Amalek, and from the spoil of King Hadadezer, son of Rehob of Zobah. David won a name for himself. When he returned, he killed 18,000 Edomites in the Valley of Salt. He put garrisons in Edom throughout all Edom. He put garrisons, and all the Edomites became David's servants. And the Lord gave victory to David wherever he went. So David reigned over all Israel. David administered justice and equity to all his people. Joab, son of Barak, was over the army. Jehoshaphat, son of Aholid, was recorder. Zadok of Achab, Adamelich, son of Albadar, were priests. Sariah was secretary. Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, were over the Cherethites and the Pelethites. David's sons were priests. Forgive me for all the bad pronunciation.
We don't really need to, we don't really need to.
Well, when I said it's hard to read, I don't mean just that. It's just hard to read all these thousands of people that have been slaughtered and stuff.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And how would you haul all that junk away? You know, you steal all this bronze and everything. You've got to have a few semi trucks lined up somewhere.
yeah. Okay, notes. Somewhere in here it talks about Metheg Ammah. That actually is another name for the town or the city of Gath, which was one of the major Philistine cities. Philistines have been a problem for centuries, and David finally pushes them back into their land, and they stay there. What upset me more than the people, this doesn't sound right, was hamstring was the horses.
Right, I was saying, he's not my friend anymore.
Yeah, but that was to prevent them from being able to use the horses to pull more chariots after him. But he kept 100. And Hirsch said that, or maybe you'll see other commentator, said that if you go back to Deuteronomy, and I went back and looked, there's a law that said you should not have more than 100 chariots. You know, if you're going to be the king.
I would rather him kill them.
I would
than
too.
hamstring them.
So,
They're basically dead.
Well,
Yeah.
they just would have bled out very slowly.
yeah. And part of it too, not only that now his enemies couldn't use the horses against him, he couldn't care for them. He didn't have the wherewithal in the middle of battle to care for them either. And one commentator made the statement that it showed extreme self-restraint on David's part, that he only kept 100. So I don't know if he was.
Oh, I saw a lot of self-restraint.
Yeah, yeah. And you saw where Toy, the king of Hamath, comes to David. Not all the neighboring nations were hostile.
Yeah, some of them had already given him cedar, remember?
Yeah,
Build this palace.
at this point in history, Israel possessed more of the land that God promised Abraham than at any other time in history. David managed to pull together a very loose confederation of anywhere from 10 to 13 tribes. You know, traditionally we think 12 tribes descended from the 12 sons of Jacob, but one commentator said, you know, if you read the list, here it's 10, there it's 11, over here it's 13, the names change. But David built an empire, had more land, and then there toward the end of the chapter, it talks about all of the people in his court that he had a scribe, a recorder, somebody was over the army. So no one person is going to build an empire without a good team. He apparently had an excellent team. So good government and organization. And this is not real clear here. They talk about the Cherethites and the Pelethites. These people were from Crete and they were mercenaries, and he hired them as his bodyguards. And the idea is if you hire foreigners who are working for money as your bodyguards, you're not worried about them maybe changing loyalties. You know, if you get somebody from this camp or that camp, maybe they're going to fight against each other, or maybe this camp and this camp are friends and they're going to decide to depose you. Mercenaries are there for the money. They're going to take care of you.
Right, as long as you got the money.
Right, as long as you're paying them, you're good.
It's like a more.
Well, somebody's going to have to get to them. So we're going to assume that he
Yes,
was
right.
well protected. Any other comments about? So you can, so this is kind of the peak of his.
You could read that, you could study that chapter just for my own ignorance. I could study that chapter, all those names and all those places. I could spend a long time studying geography and history of people. That's a complex bunch of stuff to understand.
I'd be curious if the empire that David has at this point is larger than what Israel, present day Israel.
I was trying to find I thought I had a map, but
Yeah,
in one comment that I remember reading, it says David now had everything from Dan to here, to here, and it was like, it showed that the entire kingdom, reaching all the way up to Syria or wherever.
Okay, so would that map do it? The far one?
Yeah, I mean, I actually remember having a copy of a map that had
Yeah.
the whole kingdom somewhere, but I'll
And not
I'll
only
find
north
that.
and south, it goes all the way over
Yeah.
to Egypt, doesn't it? Or close.
Yeah, I'll find it and share it.
Yeah. Yeah, so we, yeah. Of course, it only lasted through did it even last all the way through Solomon's life?
I think wasn't David fighting with one of his own sons at the end
yeah.
there? So I don't think it lasted
Well,
very long.
No, it didn't. But I
Yeah.
think David managed to keep it together. I think Solomon managed to keep it together, and Solomon built the temple.
The temple, yeah.
But I think once Solomon died, that was the end of it.
And we're still, look at Israel today.
Yeah.
We're still involved in.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, this shows
Not every day.
no, it's not.
this shows kind of the kingdom, how it all
So
the
it
way,
looks like it might be.
all
bigger
the
than
way,
the
almost
rest of
all the
Israel.
way up to the top of the from the top of the Mediterranean all the way down south of that.
So it does look bigger than present day Israel, I think. Yeah. Wow.
So
Show the camera.
put it to the camera. I think Nancy lost her signal.
It's going to be fertile land.
Okay, so shift in story. Would somebody read chapter 9? It's only 13 verses. This is a more uplifting story.
I'll read that.
Quick.
We need it. We
Or
need
it
it.
changes tone again.
But it's got a more complex name here.
David asked, is there still anyone left of the house of Saul to whom I may show kindness for Jonathan's sake? Now there was a servant of the house of Saul whose name was Ziba, and he was summoned to David. The king said to him, are you Ziba? And he said, at your service. The king said, is there anyone remaining of the house of Saul to whom I may show the kindness of God? Ziba said to the king, there remains a son of Jonathan. He is crippled in his feet. The king said to him, where is he? Ziba said to the king, he is in the house of Machir, son of Amiel, at Lodabar. Then King David sent and brought him from the house of Machir, son of Amiel, at Lodabar. Mephibosheth, son of Jonathan, son of Saul, came to David and fell on his face and did did obeisance. David said, Mephibosheth. He answered, I am your servant. David said to him, do not be afraid, for I will show you kindness for the sake of your father, Jonathan. I will restore to you all the land of your grandfather Saul, and you yourself shall eat at my table always. He did obeisance and said, what is your servant that you should look upon a dead dog such as I? Then the king summoned Saul's servant Ziba and said to him, all that belonged to Saul and to all his house I have given to your master's grandson. You and your sons and your servants shall till the land for him, and shall bring in the produce, so that your master's grandson may have food to eat. But your master's grandson Mephibosheth shall always eat at my table. Now Ziba had 15 sons and 20 servants. Then Ziba said to the king, according to all that my lord the king commands his servant, so your servant will do. Mephibosheth ate at David's table like one of the king's sons. Mephibosheth had a young son whose name was Micah, and all who lived in Ziba's house became Mephibosheth's servants. Mephibosheth lived in Jerusalem, for he always ate at the king's table. Now he was lame and bent his feet. Is that the kid that got dropped when,
Yes,
when
yes.
they were running away? Yeah.
When Saul and Jonathan and 2 other brothers were killed, a servant was trying to rescue the kid, and in the panic dropped him, and
And his feet became.
so that, yes,
Yeah.
very good. I was about to ask that question.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
remembered. I'm impressed.
I majored in religious studies and don't even remember that.
And the reason that that Mephibosheth was afraid was that in that day and time, it was customary for a new king to completely massacre anyone connected to the prior dynasty. And one commentator said, when we get to chapter 21, we're going to find out that David did kill several of Saul's descendants. There were others beyond the ones that we've already read about. Why he decides to be kind to this one, we don't know.
Was it because he's Jonathan's son? I mean,
I guess
he loved
because he
Jonathan.
loved Jonathan. And one commentator said, is he doing this just out of the goodness of his heart, or is this political sanity? You keep your friends close, you keep your enemies closer.
Mhm.
Because this kid had a legitimate claim to the throne. Because he was a direct descendant of Saul,
So. Mhm.
and a direct descendant of Saul's oldest son, too. So, I mean, it was a straight,
Yeah, straight line.
What was the population of Jerusalem? I'm just having a hard time with these massive numbers of people getting killed.
Getting killed. I thought
And
the
I'm
same thing.
thinking that these were just little scattered communities here and there, not big cities. I can't make it add up.
But these were enemies of the Israelites. That when he's talking about killing people,
Yeah,
But they're a large
still,
number.
it's got to have a large
our
army. It still
perception
looks-
on that time in that region, I just can't
Mhm.
Yeah,
imagine that massive population.
You wonder if, I wonder the same thing, but maybe the numbers are exaggerated, like when they say, Methuselah lived to be whatever it was.
400 and so on.
Yeah, 900 years old or something. I mean, so maybe it's the same sort of thing where they're exaggerating the numbers. I don't know. Because how could you have that many
My
people,
knowledge of that.
20,000 foot soldiers at that time? Hard to imagine how you come up with that.
This is true. Although I also think he was, he had a draft system,
Yeah.
And maybe some of those folks were not just the Israelites, but some of his friends, some of the friendly countries
Countries. Mhm.
providing soldiers as well.
And they may have had a different concept of who qualified for the military. I mean, in modern times, we say
You've got to
18
be able to pass the
26
test.
years old sort of is the
Yeah.
range. And then maybe back then it was, 12 to 52. I mean, I don't know.
That's true.
Just
Anybody who could swing.
anybody
an
who
axe.
could stand was going to fight.
Even if
We had a slingshot.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean, even as recently as 160 years ago in this country,
Mm.
you had teenagers that you had people fighting that today wouldn't be allowed.
Wouldn't be allowed to fight.
I mean, it's only been in our lifetime that things have gotten so very regimented.
Mhm. Mhm.
Not a huge fan of it. So, Mephibosheth have lived with David till he died. Okay, any other comments about this nice little break in the building?
You're just zooming through these, aren't you? That's 2 chapters already. We haven't made it to 10:30 yet.
Well, there's not a lot of theology here.
Glad you're saying that because I'm sitting here saying, what's the spiritual message of this?
Now, there's I can tell.
I was just contrasting. I hate to do it, but it's this morning I was listening to British BBC, and they were had a story of a Jain man, the religious. It's older than most of our religions, and it's a combination, really, of several of the major monotheistic kind of beliefs. And this man was in India. He's walking naked, like hundreds of miles, and he just has a brush with eagle feathers that in case there's an insect on him, he doesn't want to kill it, so you brush it off. But it's very cold. The roads he's walking on, the surfaces are grueling, painful surfaces, and they're just, extremely centered on peace, stillness, not being too attached, and knowing that the center is spirit, and what and then killing thousands of people, just different views.
Yeah. But how do they eat?
Well, it's not a big point. Not much.
Probably all plant-based.
Yeah.
I want to, but where do they get their food? I mean, if you're walking naked, you don't have a way to carry.
Oh yeah, well, I think that's
Or
kind of
water.
like that's like
Yeah.
when you reach a certain order, you do this. You've gotten to that level, and you do this, and you're basically just teaching by
Yeah,
doing
you're-
it. Kind of like the Buddhist monks that walk the DC. It's just so that people can stop and think what they're doing.
It's probably like, when the parts of the Bible when Christ is sending his disciples out to broaden his ministry, and he says basically don't take anything but what you're wearing. You don't take food, don't take money, just off with you, and God will take care of you. It's probably a similar way of thinking that people out of empathy,
But
compassion, whatever.
People who do worry about those things will take care of it.
Yes.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yes,
Yeah, I mean, if
Yeah.
everybody stops
There is-
worrying about
there
it,
is-
we're all in trouble.
absolutely.
I'm all for those people.
I agree. I'm just saying, the giant contrast between the
Yes, yes. And several years ago, and we did it twice. Remember the God book where every chapter was a different century. The God
Oh,
Seekers,
yes, the
God
God Seekers. I love that.
and some of
I love
the
that.
mystics. Every chapter was a person who was important in the history of Christianity, starting with the first century
Yeah.
and coming through this 20th.
Right.
And then we added on to it because we had more Sundays left. But the mystics in the Middle Ages, Julian of Norwich
Mhm.
walled herself into a cell with a small window, and people who wanted to support her passed food into her. She couldn't leave her cell.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I'm just wondering if these numbers of people killed and these stories, back in and through Alexander the Great times too, stories of what's happened circulating. People didn't have radio, television, so it was a way to keep other people in line to circulate these stories of the mass murders, killings, everybody wiped out. When Alexander the Great came through, he'd wipe out a city except for one person. And that person's job was to go to the next city to tell them, if you don't want to be totally wiped out, open the doors and let him in, become part of his army. And I'm just wondering if these are stories circulated, made up, made bigger to keep everybody else in line. Because that was, something done back in the day.
No.
All that fake news.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing changes in that regard.
Now we just get those stories on TV and on the news and
Facebook,
Facebook.
whatever. Yeah.
And it's sort of the same idea of why they would crucify people along the roads leading into Rome, or put
Yeah.
people's heads on spikes at key points in the cities to put the fear of God into you. I mean, you better. This is what's going to happen to you if you don't.
Mhm.
If you don't
Yeah.
fall in line.
Okay, well, more of the same with a slightly different twist in chapter 10. Would somebody be willing to read the whole chapter? It's 19 verses.
I'll read it.
Okay.
Sometime afterwards, the king of the Ammonites died and was succeeded by his son Hanun. David said, "I must keep up the same loyal friendship with Hanun, son of Nahash, as his father showed me." And he sent a mission to condole with him on the death of his father. But when David's envoys entered the country of the Ammonites, the Ammonite princes said to Hanun, their lord, "Do you suppose David means to do honor to your father when he sends you his condolences? These men of his are spies whom he has sent to find out how to overthrow the city." So Hanun took David's servants, and he shaved off half their beards, cut off half their garments up to the buttocks, and dismissed them. When David heard how they had been treated, he sent to meet them, for they were deeply humiliated, and ordered them to wait in Jericho and not to return until their beards had grown again. Ammonites knew that they had fallen into bad odor with David, so they hired Arameans of Beth Rahab and Zobah to come to their help with 20,000 infantry. They also hired the king of Maacah with 1,000 men and 12,000 men from Tob. When David heard of it, he sent out Joab and all the fighting men. The Ammonites came and took up their positions at the entrance to the city. When the Arameans of Zobah and Rahab and the men of Tob and Maacah took up theirs in the open country. When Joab saw that he was threatened both front and rear, he detailed some picked Israelite troops and drew them up facing the Arameans. The rest of his forces he put under his brother Abishai, who took up a position facing the Ammonites. "If the Arameans prove too strong for me," he said, "you must come to my relief. And if the Ammonites prove too strong for you, I will come to yours. Courage, let us fight bravely for our people and for the cities of our God. And the Lord's will be done." But when Joab and his men came to close quarters with the Arameans, he put them to flight. And when the Ammonites saw them in flight, they too fled before Abishai and entered the city. Then Joab returned from the battle against the Ammonites and came to Jerusalem. The Arameans saw that they had been worsted by Israel, but they rallied their forces, and Hadadezer sent to summon other Arameans from the great bend of the Euphrates, and they advanced to Halam under Shobach. commander of Hadadezer's army. Their movement was reported to David, who immediately mustered all the forces of Israel, crossed the Jordan, and advanced to meet them at Helam. There, the Arameans took up positions facing David and engaged him, but were put to flight by Israel. David slew 700 Arameans in chariots and 40,000 horsemen, mortally wounding Shobach, who died on the field. When all the vassal kings of Hadadezer saw that they had been worsted by Israel, they sued for peace and submitted to the Israelites. The Arameans never dared to help the Ammonites again. That was a mess.
Yeah, it was. Hey, let's talk about what happens to the ambassadors, the envoys that were sent to offer condolences. Not received well at all.
At least not killed.
That's what I was
Well,
thinking. They weren't
not killed,
Humiliated.
Yes, humiliated.
tremendously humiliated.
Which could be worse than some.
Yes.
Some people might
Yeah.
find it worse.
Being clean shaven was a sign of being a slave. So that was the cutting
That was
off the
the
beard
point.
thing. And then having your clothes cut off to your butt so you're fully exposed. And a lot of the people in that part of the world used to mock the Israelites because of the circumcision, and the circumcision would be there just hanging out. And so they've been humiliated. And so David is showing kindness to them, saying, stay where you are until your beards grow out. But it also was saving himself humiliation because they represented him. So it was not just their humiliation, but his he was trying to avoid. So the people in Jerusalem apparently would not have seen it. They might have heard of it, but they didn't see it.
Sounds an awful lot like what's going on in our world today, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And then talks about Joab, who is a very, at least in this chapter, this will change, very astute in terms of the battle. He's about to be caught in a pincer movement, front and rear, and he cuts his army in two to deal with it. Very, according to commentators, very astute military. But it still didn't work. I mean, they pushed him back, but they went back and regrouped and came back again. And did you notice this time David goes out? David's not part of that first battle. He's sending his armies out, but because David's middle-aged by now. He's not the young, hot-blooded. But the second time he goes out, and when David goes out, it's a complete rout. And anybody that's left is now going, I'll be your friend. I'll be your friend. Don't kill me. Don't kill us. Don't wipe us out. We're good. We'll bow down to you. We'll offer you taxes. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm never coffee fit. So, okay. So David goes out and now everybody's at peace. But this is kind of the beginning of the fall. It only gets worse.
Oh, boy.
And next chapter, next week, is your favorite
My
chapter.
favorite.
We meet Bathsheba next week.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, it's hard. It's just hard to. I continue to struggle with how to reconcile the Old Testament with the New Testament.
Yeah.
What we learned about how to live in the New Testament doesn't.
So in
doesn't align
Samuel,
with it.
in Samuel, when you go to the Bible Project, they have the overview and it shows, Samuel and then the rise and the fall of Saul, accompanied by the rise and then the fall of David. And so we're about right here, right now,
Yeah.
where we're going to start going
Going down.
down.
It's nice when everything's working.
Yeah.
nice for some.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that comment reminds me of my mother. She thought that life was perfect in the 50s and 60s, and if we could just go back to that. She assumed if it was perfect for her, it was perfect for her. I kept pointing out to her that that was not the case. But she used to think if we could just go back to the way it was in the 50s and 60s, everybody would be fine.
If Sullivan would still be on a Sunday night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did kind of fly through that, but as you said, there's not much theology here. It's just ugly history.
I keep thinking of,
And
go ahead.
well, I'm just thinking, I mean, the Old Testament is not supposed to be accurate history. It's
No.
a story. It's a story to tell us, a theme. So we can't get caught up in thinking it really happened that way.
Right.
Yeah.
And the theme is what?
Well, it's the story of God and His people, and it's and He put the Israelites first. I mean that's why when they absolutely murder everybody, like David, he's still wonderful. Because the storyline is David is God's chosen. It's a story about God's story in His relationship with man, I think.
Well, but
I always think of when you're reading these, especially chapter 8 and chapter 10, when you're talking about these battles, it's like the people who do the little battle reenactments with all the little figures and things, or when David was with Goliath, I'm thinking about these big dioramas and have these little things happening that show how the battle runs. And it's kind of like when you're watching race cars or whatever, there's a strategy to winning a race that you're not always in front, but how you do things. And all of the military strategy, that is built in, to the stories.
I also think going to Harold's point about Israel being the chosen people in the Bible, that's another clear demarcation between the Old and New Testament, because in the sermon this morning, one of the points was that Christ opened up the kingdom of heaven to all peoples. It was no longer just the Israelis; it was opened up to the Gentile. And in the Old Testament, anybody who wasn't an Israeli basically deserved to die. I mean, they were the enemy, and it didn't matter if they died. So it's a very a radical shift in the way of thinking that all mankind, people tend to be tribal, but it's the challenge. I think we're challenged as Christians to think about loving people no matter where they're from, no matter. But that's what Christ tried to instill in us.
But only after the resurrection. Don't forget that. He never said anything like that while he walked. He came to the Israelites, and it was only after the resurrection that he sent his disciples out to all men.
All men, but if you watch the Zoom service today, Harold, there, he maybe didn't explicitly say that the way he did after the resurrection, but it was clear that he was preaching to the Gentiles. Let's listen to the service today.
Well, I've listened to a lot of ministers try to stretch and strain and create, and it's not there. I mean, we just need to read, and I'm beginning to wonder if a lot of ministers have ever come in contact with the Bible and actually studied it sometimes, but it's not there, and that'd be a great thing, I think, for this class, when really studying when did he open it up, but I'm pretty sure he was sent only to the Israelites, and it says that blatantly. And then after the resurrection is the first time he says to go out to all people.
But the woman at the well.
Yeah, so what? I mean, he bumps into a lady, he wasn't mean to her. I mean, how is that saying I'm opening up my ministry to everybody?
what he
I'm not gonna-
does
Not gonna argue about it.
Well, I mean, facts are facts.
with you, but I disagree with you.
Yeah,
Well, fine, but you know,
not the first time.
Well, anyway, I mean, today's sermon is interesting in the context of this. So you can watch it on Zoom. It's interesting. Yeah.